Welcome back to the 99, where we're focused on brewing a better competitive commander. I'm your host, Patrick Marlette, and this is our Hidden Gems segment. That's right, where we discuss all of my favorite hidden gems in the world of Magic the Gathering, namely for the commander format, but these spells are great regardless of the format you're playing in. And it's interesting because today's spells, I think all of these are one-offs, or one has been reprinted as like a masterpiece, but one of these has to have been printed a handful of times. That's true. But most of these are not only underutilized, but seldom often seen, and I'm pretty certain all under at least $7. I want to say that. You know, asterisks next to that, because this episode, it might date itself in due time and all these cards go up in value. Who knows? But as of filming this, these are cheap, underutilized spells that need to see more play in the cEDH format. So I cannot wait to go over these. I'll of course be going over these in Wooburg order, naming off one multicolor spell as well as one colorless spell for you all to enjoy. Now, before we jump into this video today, if you enjoy the content here on the 99, the best way to help support it is with, of course, a pledge on Patreon. Those contributions go a long way in helping the production here, and I thank you for that. If you want to learn all about those sweet deets, you can check out the link in the description to find out more on the Patreon, but namely the Brewmaster segment for our Brewmasters that is coming up this Tuesday. It is a monthly live stream specifically to aid our Brewmasters, and I do Tuesday live streams every week. They've become far more popular in recent date, and I'm happy for everyone that's tuning in. Thank you guys. Much more concurrent viewership, and I'm happy for that. They're a joy for me, so I'm glad you all are tuning into them. Now, next up, the best way to help support the channel outside of Patreon is with your purchase in the link in the description over at TCG Player. Guys, if you're going to be picking up these cards, the best way to do so is over at TCG. They have the best prices, and of course, if you use that link, a small portion of those proceeds will go to help the channel. So thank you for that, and thank you, TCG, for affiliating me. Never really say that, but thank you. And guys, as we do with every month, there's a monthly topic to discuss. And for the month of May, the question at hand is, what do you find more important, drawing or tutoring? And we've had a string of really interesting answers on this one, but I love the engagement over this. It seems that we're leaning one direction, but I'd love to hear more of your thoughts on this very topic. And of course, stay tuned to the end of this video to hear the thoughts of one of our brew crew and or masters on this very topic. Now, gang, let's jump into this one with our first card. Starting in white, we have Fate's Shield. So for 1 white, instant speed, target permanent you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. Let me read that again. Target permanent you control gains protection from the color of your choice until the end of turn. Instant speed. I would hope so. Fateful Hour. It also has a really interesting keyword, Dark Ascension. Fateful Hour. All right. Very on flavor. If you have 5 or less life, instead you and each permanent you control gain protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. That is really good. That is really good. You're not really into this card for Fateful Hour. However, it's actually very doable in the world of cEDH. Now, the easiest way to remember what protection actually offers you, and it offers a lot, is the mnemonic acronym DET. Provided you have Fateful Hour, you and your permanents can't be damaged, enchanted, equipped, or fortified, blocked, and or targeted when protected. Now, what's unique about Fate's Shield is that there is no other 1 CMC spell that offers protection to any permanent, and, as we've covered, the effect is absurd. There's Mother of Runes and Giver of Runes as the common 1 CMC, I'm going to protect a thing, but they only really protect creatures. And there are cards like Apostle's Blessing that also offer protection, but they are of a higher CMC technically, and only target, I think in that instance, creatures and artifacts. I'm paraphrasing there, but I'll put it on the screen for you. Nothing operates like Fate's Shield at instant speed for 1 white. This effect is amazing. As I've already gone over, protection offers you a whole bunch, so whether you are trying to do something offensive or defensive, this is a great card. If you have a lot, and oftentimes if you're using a strategy that's manipulating multiple permanents to do an A plus B plus C combo, and you've played out one earlier, well, this is a great way to protect that in the future, and or great way to make sure your creature gets in there for a valuable attack, or a great way to stop your creature from getting bounced. No matter the circumstance, this is going to offer you protection, literally. It is a keyword that is so often neglected in cEDH, namely because most instances it really only targets one thing, and maybe that's not doing enough for enough people, but if you have a combo that's permanent based, this is extremely vital. I think most of the game sort of gravitated towards Thassa's Oracle and Demonic Consultation. So in instances like that, you know, Faithful Hour, Faith's Shield isn't going to do too much for you, but for every other strategy out there, this is extremely good. And after a fat ad nauseum, well, a thick old ad nauseum, well, you know, 5 life, you can actually get there. And this is a really great card for ensuring that your combo line of play with, let's say, an Auriok Salvager, LED, Underworld Breach, anything that's permanent based is going to be fine. Especially if you have Faithful Hour going for you. Mind you, it only stops one color, but if you're playing for Underworld Breach, well then you just get the other colors in there, why don't you? However, Faith's Shield, one of my favorites. Definitely heavily slept on. This next one though, oh my gosh. I sometimes wish I played blue just for some of the utilities they get that are underplayed and underutilized, and this is one of them. Blue has a whole stockpile of redirects, however, Divert is one of my favorites. For 1 blue, instant speed, change the target of target spell with a single target unless that spell's controller pays 2. Now, beyond copy effects in Magic, redirects are easily my favorite, and red has been getting tossed a ton of them in recent date, and thank you, Lords of MTG, thank you for making red the color of redirects as of recently. You know, it's had shunt and other redirects in the past, but it's getting better ones now, and I'm talking about deflecting SWAT. However, Divert, still one of the kings. While no, this doesn't affect abilities that target, much like its modern contemporaries, it still offers, at the low cost of 1 CMC, a usable redirect and disruption. So it may not always get the redirect to actually go off, but more often than not, rerouting resources into attacks is enough to stop a win in many cases. However, I have to emphasize, for 1 mana, rerouting a spell is one of the best utilities you can have. So let's just say that the floor for this card is making sure someone's Nature's Claim doesn't hit your artifact or enchantment, or making sure a counter spell doesn't stop a vital spell. We mentioned Demonic Consultation earlier. Well, Demonic Consultation, still on the stack, your Force Will. Let's just divert it to this instead. You were tapped out, that's okay, you had Force Will in hand. Well, I'm gonna make you target Divert instead. Can you pay for the 2? Oh, you can't pay for the 2. That's good. And what's the ceiling on this card? Let me think, what is a really, and this has happened on the channel before, watch our gameplay episodes. Peer into the Abyss? Can I take Peer into the Abyss? Target player draws what? Half of their deck? Excellent. If that's the floor and that's the ceiling for this 1 CMC spell that's dirt cheap, and this is the one that's had the Masterpiece reprint. There you go. There you go. There's a reprint for you. Most of these are one-offs though. Divert is fantastic. Such a good utility. Easily one of my favorites, and Divert is the queen of redirects. I said king earlier. It's one of the best. Okay, so if you don't own a copy of this card and you're not playing it, ignore the fact that it doesn't redirect abilities, because redirecting spells is more than enough in most all instances. So Divert, definitely put it on your to-buy list. In my opinion, I wish I played blue, if only for Divert. However, we get Imp's Mischief, we get Deflecting SWAT, I still get to play with some fun redirects. Now the next card I want to discuss is a bit of an oddity and definitely doesn't see enough play. Even on my own end, I usually reserve this for mono black lists, but it could definitely see play in dual colored list to trip colored list minimum, and that is Plunge into Darkness. So for 1 generic, 1 black, instant speed, choose 1. Sacrifice any number of creatures, you gain 3 life for each creature sacrificed. That's actually kind of good, but not the utility we're interested in. Pay X life, then look at the top X cards of your library, put one of those cards into your hand, and exile the rest. It also has a really interesting keyword with Entwine. So you can pay 1 black in addition to its normal casting cost to do both of these things. So the one Entwine card that's commonly seen is Tooth and Nail, because it's game winning in most instances. I don't think that entwining with this card is too potent. However, you can entwine, get the life, do the thing. It's still quite good. So, what do we really like about Plunge into Darkness? Again, it's not often you'll use that first ability, but we can start there. If your deck relies on ad nauseum, and let's face it, you're in black, so the answer is likely. If you're pushing out a bunch of creatures, this is an excellent way to get some decent mileage on those guys, feeding into your ad nauseum. However, it's the last ability we're most interested in, because sometimes you just need an answer, and Plunge helps you get there. Determining the amount of life you actually pour into the spell can be tricky and variable depending on the board state, but if it's the early stages of the game, everyone's tapped out, there aren't very many stacks on the board, well, if you are rushing to that ultimate conclusion of you winning the game, Plunge into the Darkness can very easily get you there. It is just that good a utility. I really like this card, particularly because it's at instant speed, so you have the ability to use this off turn. It's almost like Limdol's Vault in that sense. Obviously, you get to choose among 5, do a thing, keep doing that, right? But you are spending life on that. You can spend quite a bit of life and dig really deep and get there with Plunge into Darkness, which I love. So if you're not using blue in this instance, this is a great card for you. Or you actually need the life gain and you're on to Vesh, well, this is a great card for you. Odds are likely you're gonna get swung at if you're playing in black, so giving yourself 3 life for each creature you sacrifice is nothing to shirk off. That's actually quite good. Now the next card we're going to talk about is an all-time favorite of mine and is actually my favorite effect in the game. I said redirects are my second favorite. Well, copy effects like Reverberate for double red are definitely my favorite. Instant speed, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. So why is this my favorite effect? Why do I think copy effects are so good? Well, I'll tell you. For double red, you get any instant or sorcery. I'm not sure anything is truly comparable to the copy effect. If Fork is too much for you, and that's completely understandable, this is the go-to spell for lists that need extra utility. Copying removal, tutors, or just value cards can help you blow out a game. I cannot count the number of games I've saved with a well-timed copy spell. Now, Reverberate isn't always going to be game-defining or game-determining, but if in the least it copies a force of will that's trying to stop you to counter a force of will, then I'll consider that 2 red mana well spent. Obviously, Reverberate can do much more than that. I can think of the scenarios where I've copied Appearance of the Abyss on the stack. We've mentioned this card already. Copy that, crack my Emergence Zone, and oh, lo and behold, I have a win in hand. How funny is that after 40 some odd cards? Reverberate, and any copy effect, it doesn't have to be Reverberate, are some of the most underutilized spells in the game. Any copy spell you can get your hands on that's low on the CMC, and I mean 2 and under, 3 and under, even 3 is usable, they are very good in the world of cEDH, because sometimes you just don't pull into your own tutors, you don't pull into your own removal, and this gives you that option. It always gives you an option. And when you have 3 other players in the game with you, well, you've got a lot of options. Reverberate, one of my all-time favorites, probably the most expensive card on this list. Don't quote me, but it's odd that this is the most expensive card because it's not. I don't understand. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and it has a couple of copies, so you get some to choose from. Next up, moving on to green. This is a bit of an oddity, but I like it a lot, and it is Display of Dominance. For 1 generic, 1 green instant speed, choose 1. I love good modal spell. Destroy target blue or black non-creature permanent. Now I get what you're thinking. Geez, Pat, you really hate blue spells, don't you? You really hate those blue permanents. Well, stop. That's not all it does. Permanents you control can't be the targets of blue or black spells your opponents control this turn. It does even more. So this is a bit of an oddity, and it does seem narrow, right? But 2 out of 5 colors that you commonly see in Commander, namely cEDH, well, blue and black spells are so frequent that this often hits its target. Display of Dominance puts a stop to some of my least favorite and frequently seen enchantments, as well as planeswalkers that are cropping up more and more now. Tavesh, I'm looking at you. But on the back end, also stops the Chain of Vapors, the Deadly Rollicks, the Into the Royals, the new to the party Vanishing Verses. You get it. It stops a lot, more than you honestly realize. The only real major hiccup here being the fact that it says non-creature permanent, but there are hundreds of ways to deal with creatures that I'm okay with one of my spells not handling creatures. That is a-okay with me. But the other effect of just stop, it's almost like pseudo protection, making it so you can't be targeted with all those pesky spells is fantastic. And like I mentioned with Vanishing Verse, this also stops all those multicolored spells that happen to have blue or black. And there are a ton of them. A ton of them. A card we mentioned in a previous Hidden Gems video. Drown in the Loch. Drown in the Loch. I had to look that one up. And it's funny to think because I mentioned Drown in the Loch in a previous video. And the next card we're talking about, so far as multicolored is concerned, also happens to be in Dimir. And so for 1 blue, 1 black, we have Tyrant's Scorn. You know, and you likely have never heard of this. You likely never seen it played. But I'm going to try to encourage you to maybe consider it. At instant speed, choose 1. Destroy target creature with a mana value of 3 or less. There you go. There's your creature removal. It's okay that display missed it because we have Tyrant's Scorn. Also, return target creature to its owner's hand. So this does a great deal more than you actually realize. There's a whole lot to this utility. And again, every modal spell that you can get your hands on that plays well into multiple strategies is always worth it. From Anafenza to Yuriko, this hits a ton of commanders, but not only the commanders, the hordes of 3 CMC and under creatures you see frolicking about the cEDH tables these days. From Hull Breachers to Dark Confidants to Drannith Magistrates, the growing in popularity Flame Scroll Celebrant. Who'da thunk? Yeah, slaps all of those. And it's a snap. Well, without the untappy bit, but if you're only using snap on your own Dockside Extortionist, how greedy can you get? It's a bit of protection and added utility with ETB creatures you may be rocking. Dimir has a ton of great cards to its guild, and Tyrant's Scorn being one of the most unsung and underutilized of the lot. It's a really good card. The bounce can seem negligible, but people frequently use bounce effects to bounce their own things, namely Dockside in a modern cEDH setting, but this is also really good with any sort of utilities you might have, and to remove a hate bear that's on the board that you may want to also remain on the board. Like if you fail to pop off on your turn by bouncing someone's Manglehorn, well, at least you know they can still play their Manglehorn onto the board, making every artifact come into play tapped. So you have the option of killing that or giving that person the utility should you fail. There's a lot of choice to this card, and I like it a whole lot. However, the next card, probably the most unsung in cEDH, and one of my favorite sax pieces, Orb of Dreams, is our final card today. 3 generic, artifact, permanents enter the battlefield tapped. Now I know what you're thinking. Pat's gone off the deep end. Why would you play this card? This is crazy. This is madness. Permanents? You mean creatures, enchantments, lands? Yeah, I mean everything comes into play tapped. Are you, like me, tired of seeing people generate infinite mana with Dockside Extortionist? No longer an issue. Infinite combat with what now? Oh, I'm sorry, Godo. Not a thing you do anymore. Dualcaster Mage? Had that happen on the show? Wish I had an Orb of Dreams out. Now, Orb of Dreams is not for every deck. That's just never going to be the case. Unless you're playing a dedicated stacks list, then you might not want to include this. However, if you are playing stacks, ask yourself the question, does my strategy or do my combos care that permanents come into play tapped? Now, if that answer is no, well, look at you. You just found yourself a new stacks piece that stops a ton of storm-heavy decks that are current in the cEDH meta right now. This stops so many strategies that I see played frequently. Anything that's going to put a thing into play that wants to be untapped, well, you're screwed. I'm sorry. Orb of Dreams stops it. Such a good card. I play this in Belby. Delicious foil version. You don't need to buy the foil one, but if you can, through the link in the description, I'll thank you for it because Orb of Dreams is totally worth it. Buy a damaged one if you must, but if you're playing stacks, I love this card. And that will do it for today's episode. That covers all of the hidden gems that I had to discuss. And guys, if there are any hidden gems, underutilized utilities that you find in the world of Commander, let me know in the comment section down below. We do these not too infrequently, but I love discussing cards rather that are underplayed in the world of Commander, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on any cards that you think should see more play in Commander. But as I do with all these videos, to close this one out, I like to thank one random lucky Patreon member, and today's Patreon member is Renell Ebro. Renell is a long-standing brew baby, and I thank you so much for your patronage. You are among the best, but you already knew that. And for his thoughts on the monthly topic, I'll be turning to Brewmaster Jeff.
Hey guys, Jeff here, also known as Lobdofka Online, and thanks to Patrick for letting me share my thoughts on this month's topic. Of course you need both, and there are also extremes. If you have unlimited mana, for example, why would you cast Elvish Visionary when you could cast Weird Harvest? Why would you cast Personal Tutor when you could cast Blue Sun Zenith for X equals anything you like? In practice, I find that having consistent card draw solves all your problems more so than having a decent number of tutors. If you don't draw into the answers you need or the aggressive cards you want, you probably still find more card draw, or you find the tutors that get you what you need. But it doesn't work the other way. You can't just throw tutors into a deck and expect to find them consistently. Or if you do find one, what happens? If it doesn't work out because it or what you searched for is countered or removed. Without solid card draw, your opponents will advance their plans while you sit there out of gas.
And that will do it for this video. I hope you found a handful of new cards today that you should be incorporating in your commander list, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on any cards you find to be hidden gems as well. Be sure to tune in every Tuesday for the live streams here, as well as Friday for our weekly YouTube shorts. Again, my name is Patrick Marlette, and happy brewing, babies.